In October 2023, Vladimir Putin made the unprecedented decision to withdraw Russia's Black Sea Fleet from its historic base at Sevastopol. By March 2024, the fleet had lost a third of its 80 vessels, marking a devastating blow for the Russian Navy. Replenishing these losses is impossible, as Turkey has closed the strategic Dardanelles and Bosporus Straits to Russian warships under the 1936 Montreux Convention. This defeat is the most humiliating experience for the Russian Navy since the Russo-Japanese War, brought about by a surprising new adversary, Ukraine's sea drones, first showcased in the summer of 2023. How do these weapons work, and how have they revolutionized naval warfare? Let's unpack the secrets of these elusive warriors of the deep. Ukraine's sea drones are compact, domestically designed marvels, adept at both reconnaissance and heavy-hitting strikes, carrying up to 661 pounds of explosives. Their speed and small size make them elusive targets, often outmaneuvering Russian ships with ease. A drone operator interviewed by CNN mentioned that Russian weapons weren't built to counter these speedsters, which are faster than anything else in the Black Sea. While some footage shows Russian ships successfully neutralizing them, other videos highlight the dramatic effectiveness of these drones. These unmanned surface vessels come in three forms: the Sea Baby, the Magura V5, and the Mame. The Sea Baby, capable of reaching speeds of 90 km per hour, is primarily designed to strike stationary targets and costs roughly $221,000 to produce. The Magura 5, named after a Slavic war goddess, is priced at $275,000. It's more agile than the Sea Baby, though it sacrifices explosive power for better maneuverability, making it ideal for targeting Russian ships outside their docks. With a range of 800 kilometers, the 5.5-meter Magura 5 can deftly navigate with its 1.5-meter width. In December 2023, Ukraine showcased its latest drone, the Mame, named after a folk hero. It surpasses its predecessors in speed, reaching a top velocity of 110 km per hour. Each drone is equipped with cameras for pilot monitoring, while the surveillance variants come loaded with high-tech sensors, including gyroscopes for orientation, laser rangefinders, and marine radars. These innovations demonstrate how Ukraine's sea drones are rewriting the rules of naval warfare, creating a significant challenge for Russia's once dominant fleet. Curious how these drones pack such a punch? Let's break it down, starting with their design. For one, they're made of plastic, which makes them hard to spot by radar, and they also have a low heat signature, which makes them stealthy to thermal imaging cameras. Their low heat signature comes thanks in part to their being powered by electric motors. The drones have backup connections to their remote control system in case the main connection fails. This is an important component of resistance to Russian electronic warfare, which Ukrainian drone operators admit can interfere with their signals. Methods of communication include a Starlink dish mounted on their backs. The suicide variants of Ukraine's sea drones are activated by fuses mounted in their noses. Once these impact a target, the explosives detonate. Here's some really exciting news. According to Ukrainian sources, newer sea drones are in the works. In a scenario that could make science fiction fans nervous, the Ukrainians say these versions will be autonomous, with artificial intelligence that can pick its own targets independently of human operators. The different drones are operated by two separate departments. The Magura's users are personnel attached to Ukraine's military intelligence agency, the HUR, led by Lieutenant General Kirilo Budanov. The other unit, which operates the Sea Baby, is the Security Services of Ukraine, the SBU. This is the government's main law enforcement and intelligence agency, one which has long experience in intelligence, counter-terrorism, and counter-espionage functions dating to the Donbass War. Ukrainian sources claim that this was the unit responsible for the October 2022 attack on the Kerch Bridge. The newer Mame drones operators are yet unclear. Notably, Ukraine has used these drones to target the Kerch Bridge that links Crimea to the Russian mainland across the Sea of Azov. Following up on the initial attack on this vital piece of infrastructure, Russian authorities said in July 2023 that Ukraine used two unmanned surface vessels to hit the bridge again. The two drones carried a combined total of nearly 3,800 pounds of explosives and impacted two of the bridge's support columns. Although this was not enough to bring the bridge down, it damaged the road and slowed movement across it. Although the more vital railway was undamaged, the bridge did not resume normal operations until October 14th. As this bridge is a vital supply route for the Russian forces in Ukraine and a key item of propaganda for the supposed prowess of the Putin regime in Russia, President Zelensky has made its destruction a high priority. The use of these cheap drones, therefore, acts as a force multiplier, allowing the Ukrainians to inflict a much greater amount of damage for their price, which is vital for their asymmetric strategy against the wealthier and more material-rich Russian invaders. For comparison with the drones that cost less than $300,000, the Kerch Bridge cost $4 billion to build. In response to the attack, Russia launched a series of strikes against the port city of Odessa, which it claimed had served as the base for the sea drone operations. Although their demonstrated success against the Kerch Bridge is important, these sea drones are more famous and important for the pain they have brought to the Russian Navy. As early as 2022, Ukraine was successfully using its sea drones against Russian ships. The sinking of the cruiser Moskva, the flagship of the Russian Black Sea Fleet in April 2022, was the most famous naval feat of the war. But did you know that the successor flagship, the Admiral Makarov frigate, has also suffered damage? On October 29th of that year, the Admiral Makarov and other ships came under attack by 8 Ukrainian air drones and 7 sea drones while stationed in their base at Sevastopol. Although Russian sources reported that all of the air drones had been destroyed, the sea drones had better luck. At least one made it through, breaching the frigate's hull and damaging its radar system, setting it ablaze. Russian sources did not confirm the damage to their flagship, but admitted to minor damage to another ship, a minesweeper. This was the Ivan Golubec. Moscow said that several of the sea drones were intercepted and recovered. Russian sources later claimed that they were made with Canadian navigation modules. The Russians even accused the Royal Navy of being the mastermind behind the October 29th attack and for having trained Ukraine's operators in how to carry it out. London denied these allegations. The early drone attacks set the stage for a 3-part pattern. First, the operations tend to take place at night, for obvious reasons. The drones are painted black to make them even harder to see in darkness. Second, the attacks concentrate on specific weak points in a ship, such as its engines, or in the case of a transport ship, its ramp. Third, once the initial target has been hit, Ukraine's operators pick a single point to concentrate their remaining drones on, gradually destroying the enemy ship's armor and eventually breaching the hull. At that point, the enemy ship was doomed to take in water and sink. Using this pattern, Ukraine dramatically escalated its anti-ship activities in the second half of 2023. Notable instances of sea drone attacks on Russian ships beginning from this time included a strike on the corvette Samum on September 14th. The strike did not sink the ship, but damaged it enough for it to lose power. It needed to be towed away for repairs. Ukrainian sources claimed that it was being towed with a significant tilt at the stern and listing to starboard. In October 2023, Ukraine struck 2 more Russian ships with its sea drones, the Buyan missile carrier and the Pavel Derzhavin patrol ship. In November, 2 more Russian ships, a Cerner-class landing craft and an Akula-class landing craft, were destroyed in Crimea at the hands of Magura drones. In December, Ukraine used Sea Baby drones to damage the Pavel Derzhavin. Ukrainian sources also claimed in their report from December 24, 2023, that the rescue tug Nikolai Mura and reconnaissance and hydrographic ship Vladimir Kozitsky had also been damaged by Sea Baby attacks. Ukraine's sea drone attacks continued into 2024. On January 31st, Magura drones attacked and sank the Tarantol III class missile corvette Ivanovets. At least 3 of the drones impacted the Russian ship, as shown on video. Budanov claimed 6 direct hits in total, although this was not confirmed by video. The ship's 30mm AK-630M close-in weapon system shot at the drones but failed to stop them. The first impact came on the ship's port side. Another hit came where a previous impact had already created a large hole in the ship's armor. By the end of the video, the Russian ship had sunk. The attack took place in western Crimea, about 210 kilometers from the nearest Ukrainian port. For understandable reasons, Budanov declined to mention where the attack had originated. On Valentine's Day, Ukrainian drone operators were in a giving mood. Near the Crimean town of Yalta of World War II fame, more Magura USVs attacked a Russian ship, this time the amphibious vessel Seyza-Kunikov. Ukrainian sources alleged that Seyza-Kunikov had suffered critical holes in its port side and began to sink. The sinking of the ship was later confirmed by Russian sources. Coincidentally, it was the same date that the man the ship was named for, who had been posthumously named a hero of the Soviet Union, had been killed in action during World War II. In March, the Russian patrol ship Sergei Kotov came under attack in the small hours of the 5th. The crew was able to spot the incoming Ukrainian drone, but was unable to destroy it before it was too late. 7 sailors were killed and 6 were injured in the strike. According to Ukrainian intelligence, the ship suffered damage to its stern and both sides and sank. It was a measure of poetic justice, as the ship was part of the attack on Snake Island on the first day of the war. It now joins the Moskva, which was also part of that attack, beneath the waves. The unit behind the attack on the Sergei Kotov and the other Magura incidents is Ukraine's Group 13, an elite force within the aforementioned Ukrainian Military Intelligence Division, the GUR. These drone pilots are skilled operators. Their ability to control their weapons from hundreds of kilometers away is so precise that they can even use tracer fire from Russian warships to anticipate and maneuver their USVs around their enemy's line of attack. The Sergei Kotov was sunk in the Kerch Strait in an incident which revealed just how far east Ukraine's sea drone operators have begun to reach. The ship cost about $65 million. Although these men might not be on the front line, that does not mean their work is less exhausting. Sea drone operations against Russian ships can take days. There is little rest during this deployment, as the operators must remain focused. Ukraine's sea drone pilots have demonstrated their ability to not only know where their enemy's ships are, but the exact points they should direct their attack toward in order to do the most damage. This pattern requires careful planning and research before contact with the enemy begins. Group 13's commander, a soldier known by his codename 13th, said in an interview with the BBC in March 2024, "After finishing my work, I'm as exhausted as a squeezed lemon." 13th and his comrades will need to get used to the long stints on duty. Building off the successes of 2023, Ukraine ramped up its sea drone activity even more to start 2024. All told, 3 Russian ships were sunk within 6 weeks. Their hard work and probable sleepless nights are having results in other ways beyond the sunken Russian ships. In the middle of March 2024, Putin fired the commander of the Black Sea Fleet, Admiral Nikolai Yevmenov, over the loss of so many ships. Yevmenov had been in command of the fleet since 2019. Only days earlier, the International Criminal Court issued an arrest warrant against him for charges of crimes against humanity for his role in the missile attacks on the Ukrainian civilian power grid between October 2022 and March 23. Russian sources reported that Admiral Alexander Mosaev, previously commander of the Northern Fleet, had been chosen as his successor. Ukraine's steady clearing of the Black Sea Fleet has proven to be an important victory not only for its morale, but for its strategic and economic viability. But how? Strategically, Ukraine's drones have essentially prevented the Russian Black Sea Fleet from supporting its ground forces with fires and amphibious operations. In the early days of the war, Western military observers feared amphibious attacks from the Russian Navy, especially against Odessa. That is almost impossible now, not least of which because of how many landing craft Ukraine's sea drones have destroyed or damaged too heavily to take part in operations for the immediate future. The move from Sevastopol to Novorossiysk has also put most of Ukraine out of the range of Russian shipborne missiles, limiting the Black Sea Fleet's ability to provide long-range support to the troops on the ground. In effect, Ukraine's sea drones have neutralized the Russian Black Sea Fleet's ability to wage war for the cost of a few $1 million. Ukraine has also disrupted Russia's maritime supply lines. Early in the war, Russia could bring oil from Syria through the Black Sea and to its forces in eastern Ukraine. Now the supply line is much longer, as these ships must travel through the Mediterranean, up the Atlantic coastline, through the North Sea, and finally to the Baltic to St. Petersburg. As a result, it's far costlier to bring supplies to the army, adding to Russia's logistical challenges on land and slowing the rate at which forces can conduct operations. Economically, the neutralization of the Russian Navy means that Ukrainian trade cannot be cut off, especially in the country's all-important agricultural sector. In July 2023, Russia withdrew from the grain export agreement struck the year before that had allowed Ukrainian ports to safely send the country's agricultural products abroad. Russia had hoped to use its navy to strangle this trade route and damage the Ukrainian economy. However, by containing Russia in the Black Sea, Ukraine has been able to keep exporting its produce. This has not only secured world food supplies, but has gotten the Ukrainians much-needed money for their war effort. Prior to the war, agriculture accounted for approximately 20% of Ukraine's GDP and was Ukraine's most valuable export, contributing over 41% of the country's overall exports. For Kyiv, this is a vital economic artery to keep open, and its low-cost drone boats are helping to do that. On the morale and psychological front, Ukraine's success against the Russian Navy comes at a critical time. The war effort on land has appeared to falter, with the capture of Avdiivka after months of fighting seeming to confirm that the cause was flagging. The success against the Russian Black Sea Fleet, therefore, comes at a critical time and demonstrates that the Ukrainians can still do with a lot of help. Continuing to secure Western support is the most important war objective for Ukraine, and the success against the Black Sea Fleet may prove vital, guaranteeing such support. Finally, Ukraine's success against the Black Sea Fleet is a point of propaganda against Russian morale. Like many dictators, Russian ones in particular, Putin has made the Russian Navy an object of personal priority and pride. That such expensive and visually pleasing objects of power can go down to cheap Ukrainian drones is an obvious loss of prestige to him and to all of his armed forces. For these reasons, Ukraine's drone operations in the Black Sea must be considered one of the most successful naval campaigns in modern times, and one which might leave a lasting change in the trajectory of maritime warfare. In fact, in the July 2023 CNN report, which first revealed the drones to the public, one of the operators accused the Russian Navy of being based on 20th century systems, while he and his comrades were operating in the 21st century. The war in Ukraine has confirmed the results seen in the earlier war between Armenia and Azerbaijan in 2020, namely that drones are one of the most important parts of a modern battlefield. There, the unprepared Armenian forces lost their traditional military superiority against Azerbaijani forces, which used drones much more effectively. The current conflict has expanded on these results in the skies, but is now starting to show that drones will matter just as much on the seas. No competent navy can afford to ignore how ships worth tens or hundreds of millions of dollars can be sunk by drones worth a few $100,000. Ukraine began the war with just one ship in its navy, a frigate that was scuttled in the port of Mykolaiv to prevent it from being captured. Ukraine has proven it does not need it, and that there are indeed more cost-effective methods to fight on the waves. The conclusion seems clear. Drones have opened a new chapter in naval warfare, which has just gotten much cheaper, perhaps even more democratic, as sea power is increasingly no longer the domain of great powers, with the high budgets needed to afford ships of war, but can be carried out with just as much effectiveness with small, cheap, unmanned surface vessels, and soon unmanned submersibles. Indeed, the drones are so cheap that Ukraine is looking to crowdfund them. An official Ukrainian government website called United24 has a section that invites everyone around the world to chip in a few dollars to build more Sea Baby drones. The current goal is for 35 more vessels. This portion of United24 advertises Sea Baby successes, such as the operations against the Admiral Makarov and Admiral Essen frigates, the Kerch Bridge, and the Samum. In this way, the small dollar donors are invited to participate in more operations, comforted in the knowledge that they too can claim a small part in the success against the ships of Russia's Black Sea fleet. Ukraine's Black Sea campaign is one that the brass of every maritime fighting force will need to study carefully starting today. But do you agree? What do you think about Ukraine's sea drone campaign against the Black Sea fleet? Don't forget to let us know in the comments. Also make sure to hit the like and subscribe buttons to support the channel and for more military analysis from military experts. Now go and check out why this miniature drone scares Russians to death, or click this other video instead.